What is up, friends? Rob here. Some know me as the Medicare Minister in the space that I'm in, and that's the insurance space. And I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire leadership podcast for all of you today. And I'm here with my man, Mr. Will Atchison. Will you say what's up to everyone real quickly?
What's up, everybody? Pleasure to be here, Rob. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I know you're going to spit some serious fire today and bring tons of value. But before we dive into that, as always, I want to remind you that to like, to comment, to subscribe, turn on the notifications. That way you will be notified every time we drop fresh content like this. And I do this and I interview top leaders in different spaces because I believe that God has put a leader in all of you. And I pray that something that we say today will inspire you, deeply motivate you to say, you know what? It's about time that I win. And what better year to start winning than in 2022? And always, I pray that this puts fresh wind in your sails. Don't quit. Don't give up. I believe God has made you on purpose to live on purpose. And I know we're going to hear about that today. So Will, thank you so much once again for coming on. And Will, I like to do this every time I get started with someone on the podcast. And that is find a little bit about who they are, their backstory. So tell us a little about where you come from, maybe a little bit of that transition time up to where what you're doing today.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, appreciate you letting me be here. So basically, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I live in St. Pete, Florida, down here in sunny Florida. Now, I've been here for about 6 years. I was a former landscape designer, so it's doing something completely different than, the insurance space that you and I are both in now. Sure. Been down here about 6 years, been in the industry for, let's call it going on 5 years now. Just loving it, man. Living by the beach, selling policies, helping families,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting my plane ticket, man, because I want to go live by the beach and sell policies too, man. Hang out with you.
Yeah. I'm about 5 or 10 minutes from the beach. But close enough that it's an easy trip.
Yeah. And the good news about the industry we're in is we could sell policies from literally on the beach from a laptop.
From anywhere.
Some earbuds. Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you talked about landscape designer. What is one thing, maybe a leadership principle, maybe a habit, work ethic, whatever. What is one thing that you took away from being a landscape designer that's helped you be ultra successful in the insurance business?
Well, that's a great question. I honestly think that the work ethic, I worked for a larger company doing that as a young man, in my 20s. There was about, at any given time, obviously it fluctuated, but, anywhere from 30 to 45 guys that work there, ages ranging from 19 to 55, 60 years old. So I think that having to be present and realize kind of who I'm dealing with, as a manager at that point, approaching someone that's 19 with issues is a lot different than approaching a guy twice my age. There's a different level of respect that you have to give them based on how long they've been doing this stuff. So I think that, something that helped bring me into this industry was the desire, first of all, to make more money. I was kind of at the top of my salary threshold when I was doing that. But I was also still very young, 25, 26 years old, kind of thinking to myself, hey, what's my next step? What is it going to be? Am I going to go start my own company? What is it? I was looking to get engaged, had a ring, kind of trying to figure out my life, headed into my 30s. But I think one of the things I liked about that industry in particular, the least, you're very much outside. every day, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of days where it's 100 degrees out and you're starting at 6:30 in the morning. I'm managing 40 or 50, 30, 40 guys, 50 guys, whatever it was. And also having to sell jobs, to end up doing the design work for those families. I wasn't fulfilled. I wanted more for my future family. At the time, I didn't have a daughter. Now I have a 2-year-old. I knew I wanted to be a father at some point in my life. So I was trying to kind of think ahead, and I had gotten really good at it, and I enjoyed the people I was working with. But again, it wasn't quite fulfilling. It wasn't quite where I wanted to be. I come from let's just call it a true middle class family.
Yeah.
I've seen my parents struggle a lot with different things.
Right.
And my dad passed away, let's call it, I don't know exactly, three years ago. So I just wanted something different. I knew I was going to kind of have to take care of my mom at some point. And do things like that. So I knew I kind of needed to head in a different direction and try something new.
Sure. What was it that, as we're talking about this story of yours, what was it that you just said, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself, right? You talked about not being fulfilled. Was there a defining moment? Was it a book that you read? Was it a mentor that you had? Or is it just something that one day you just said, you know what, this is great, but I know I can win at a higher level? Was there a moment you can think of that kind of just rises at the top?
I can't pinpoint an exact moment. I think that, again, back to where I was, those long, hot days making, let's call it $20 an hour, whatever it was.
Sure.
Those were the days that I'd come home, I felt accomplished. But when I looked at my bank account, or I looked to kind of have something in my savings account,
sure,
it was always a stretch, man. I grew up in a wonderful family. I basically had everything that I ever wanted, for the most part. But I knew I wanted more. I just, some of the clients that I had, at the time, you're cutting grass at $1 million home with a beautiful pool. They got a nice car in the driveway. I can remember saying to myself, man, I want this. I want this one day, whether it takes me 20 years to get to it or whatever. I kind of just needed the vessel to get me there. I needed the boat. I had, physically, I was able to drive the boat and things like that. I knew what I was capable of. So I've always kind of been a confident guy. I played sports growing up, was good at that. I don't think it was any one thing in particular. I think it was a combination of things that kind of led me to move out of my hometown and then get down here to Florida and start trying different things, getting out of that comfort zone.
Sure. And I just want to stop for a minute, look at the camera and just say this. Maybe you're in a season or in a job that maybe you don't like, or maybe you find yourself like Will, and it's good, but you lack that fulfillment. Listen, don't hate on that season, because the season that you're in right now may be preparing you for this next opportunity, right? There's a lot of things that I hated doing, but it helped me get to the point to where I needed to get to. And it gave me some skill set that I didn't realize I was getting during those seasons. So don't hate on the season you're in, but look at it as a stepping stone to your next season. So give me some numbers, because you came out of that and, you had some pretty big success, and you mainly focus on the under 65 health insurance space. So give us some numbers, kind of where you went from to how it just kind of exploded for you.
So basically, the first year in the industry, was really difficult.
Sure.
You kind of just talked about seasons, and it's funny you bring that up because I have some stuff written down here about seasons on my notepad from another podcast that I was listening to earlier. During difficult, this is the quote that I wrote down. It kind of set with me. During the difficult seasons, God's trying to build the man more than the ministry.
Yeah, that's good.
So I knew I kind of needed to build myself, build my skills, build myself as a man before I was going to really get to, let's call it the finish line, or, whatever my goal was.
Sure.
At the time it was making $100,000 a year. Came in first year, didn't make anywhere close to $100,000, but I made the same thing that I was making at my landscape job, 45 grand, 50 grand. So I knew if I could match what I'd made at my last job,
sure.
Just based on the residual income aspects that this industry brings, I knew if I stuck with it another year, even if it was 5 grand more or 10 grand more. I've talked to Cody Askins about this before. Where are you going to go get a job where you work your tail off for a year, and at the end of the year, they give you a $10,000 a year raise?
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't know of anywhere. So for me, it was kind of small wins that turned into big victories,
Sure.
Eventually. You've got to wait your turn. God has a plan for all of our lives. You just have to trust his timing. I knew that he put me where I was down here in Florida, got me this new career in a different industry. And I knew that I needed to listen to him. And I knew that I needed to fight for the things that I wanted. So coming out of my first year, made more money. Second year, more money. Third year, even more money. Third year is when I ended up getting a promotion and getting a team. And once I got a team, that's kind of when everything exploded for me, because I felt like I was able to step into who I really am as a man. I have a very large heart. I'm direct. I'm quick on my feet, but I tend to want to give people the shirt off my back kind of thing,
Sure.
So once I got a team, I knew based on my experience, sometimes people claim to be leaders, and it's really just about the money for them. It's not about changing someone else's life.
Yep.
So based on my experience with different leadership that I've come in contact with over the years, I knew that I wanted to do things a certain way when it came to my team. And it was always agent first, me second. I obviously needed to take care of my family and things like that. But if I had an agent call me at 10:30 at night, I was picking up the phone and talking to them. So I think once I kind of got a team, that's when I really found my purpose in this industry, because most people think we just sit at a cubicle all day and we're just calling. And it kind of starts out like that, but then it can morph into so much more where you're really kind of running a true business with an office and a team and people depending on you and assistants and, so yeah.
Yeah. So let's stay there for a second. What do you believe is your number one gift? Like, I believe everyone has gift and gifts. I believe that God was not stingy when he passed out gifts to everyone. Is there a gift that you go, Rob, this is my 10? Is it managing people? Is it sales? Is it motivation? What do you believe your 10 is, if I can put it that way?
You're spitting some fire today too. These are great questions. Really, I think that I'm probably just above average at being a sales guy, right? I can make a good income doing it.
Yeah.
But for me, what I have to say I'm a 10 at is more of the leadership side of things. I'm going to be humble and say I'll give myself a 9 because I don't think anyone's perfect.
Sure.
But I would definitely say that that's my strong suit.
Gotcha.
And I think I can attribute a couple things to that. It's my heart, my desire to succeed, setting the example for everybody that's under me. Growing up in sports and things like that, I was the first person to be there, the last person to leave. You're going to know that I'm on your team. I'll be in the trenches with you, taking calls, answering questions. I'll be there before you get there in the morning, and I'll be there after you leave. And I think those things are all really important when it comes to someone else's career. If you leave landscaping or you leave retail or the bar industry or waiting tables, you're completely flipping careers, and you're depending on me to be able to set the example for you to succeed. And I take that very seriously. I mean, we're talking about somebody's life, I want to make sure that I'm giving my best at all times. Some days are better than others, just like anybody else. But I think that would be my strong suit, and it's what kind of keeps me going. Seeing somebody come in to my team on their last dollar, and then 2 years later, driving the car they want, taking their wife or their husband out to good dinners, and sending me text messages thanking me, hey man, this changed my life. That's what makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate in preaching impact before income. And I truly believe that if you're living on purpose, that's a phrase that I've adopted for years, that when you're living on purpose like that in such a way that you're making an impact, the income will follow. And I just need to say this too. I stop from time to time during these podcasts, and I say I'm looking in the camera, but I'm already looking at the camera. But I really believe that I believe the same thing, Will. Like, I do Medicare mainly. I mean, I do all kinds of insurance, but Medicare, obviously. But I never felt like I would just be a Medicare salesperson for the rest of my life. I love sales. I love people. But listen, maybe God has you right where you're at because he's using that gifting to fund the ultimate gift. Let me say that again. Maybe he has you in this season that Will and I are talking about, the season right now, that you're using that gift to fund the ultimate gift, right? So don't hate where you're at. Be thankful, be a good steward, because God can't give you that ultimate gift if you're not going to be a good steward in the season that you're in. All right. So, Will, thank you so much for sharing that. So let's stay there. Let's talk about this leadership thing. That's your 10. What is one leadership habit that you practice, if not daily, consistently or frequently, that has contributed to you to be a high impact leader?
Well, you use the word consistent. This is I'm going to use the term dog eat dog kind of industry.
Sure.
It's very competitive. You got a lot of people trying to make it happen for themselves, and they're hungry, just like you're hungry.
Sure. Yep.
So I think consistency, not only in your professional life, but in your personal life too.
Sure.
You and I both know that my personal life is all over the place. This isn't a clock punching kind of career here, where you can be having a terrible night the night before or a terrible morning. You just clock in, and go through the motions and get through the day. This is something where, your personal life can certainly affect your tonality on the phone, your mindset about the day. A lot of things. So I think for me, something that's helped me become a decent leader is consistency. I had to start really thinking about, hey, what is it that I want, and what is keeping me from getting where I want? all the decisions you make in life dictate your mindset.
Yeah.
I used to party a little too much with my friends, and at a certain point, I had to kind of think, hey, like, this is getting in the way of who I am on the inside. It's obviously clouding my judgment on different things. It's not helping me the next day, certainly. Sometimes you got to cut things out of your life to be able to make yourself more consistent for other people that are depending on you. So I'd have to say, in answer to your question, consistency is a big thing, personal and professional. You got to walk the walk.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way Pastor Craig Rochelle says it. He says that successful people do frequently what unsuccessful people, or consistently, to use that word, do consistently what unsuccessful people do occasionally, right? Or what others do occasionally. And I love that. It's that consistent. And listen, where you're at in your life today, this is what Will is saying. If you're watching this today, that your life is a sum total of the choices that you've made, good and bad, right? And we got to look in the mirror and we got to own it. Where we're at today is a sum total of the decisions that we've made, good or bad. And what Will's talking about is being consistent in those habits. So habits, let's talk about principles for a second. Is there a leadership principle that you've learned, that you've cultivated, and that you lead from? Obviously, consistency, we know that's a habit you've developed of being consistent, but is there a principle, like one that you go, this is a staple principle for my life that has helped solidify the leader I am today?
I can't pinpoint a principle that I can say, yep, this is it.
Okay.
One of the principles that I've heard over the years that kind of stuck with me, that I have definitely applied, and I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but I'm going to try. Patrick Bet-David, one of his 7 principles is basically, I don't trust you until I can trust you. And you don't have to take the word trust literally. As far as a team goes and having agents, I'm going to be annoying. I'm going to call you. I'm going to check on you in the morning. I'm going to call you at night. I'm going to be on you because you asked me to change your life.
Sure.
So if I've got to be annoying and I've got to follow up with you all day to make sure you're on task to make the money that you're telling me you want to make, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be consistent with it. And I'm not really, I'm not going to trust you until I can trust you, until I know, hey, this guy's making 3, 4, 6, 10 grand a week. I can ease up on him. He's on track to do the things that he needs to do. I can trust him to hit his goals at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
So that would probably be one that I've definitely applied.
Yeah, it's definitely holding them accountable until they get to that place where they built that consistency in their own life. So yeah, I definitely agree. And when they get to that point, it brings you such fulfillment to see other people win. So let's define that. What does fulfillment mean to Will?
Oh, man, I'm loving this. Fulfillment to me, I gotta say, my spiritual life has become something that is more important than anything else. If I'm not good spiritually, with my relationship with God and things like that, I find that I'm not as consistent in my other areas of life as I want to be. So I think as far as fulfillment goes, that comes first. Secondly, what's fulfilling to me is time, having time with my family. The money is great. Cars are great. I'm a big car guy. I love cars. Cars are great. Big house is great. But if I don't have my family close to me and I don't get the time that I want with my daughter and my wife,
Sure.
I'm not even close to, you could take it all away, you know? And if I have them, I'm fulfilled, you know?
Yeah.
So those two things are top of my list: relationship with God, family. And then, you know, obviously I want my work life to be good as well. And when I'm rolling on all cylinders in the first two, my business life is typically pretty good as well. Because I'm happy. Again, I'm consistent in my personal life, which helps my professional life. So when I put those two things first, and I'm fulfilled in those areas, generally speaking, my business life is fulfilling as well. You know, you're gonna have up and down months, you know, up and down weeks. I've gone weeks just like everybody else where, you know, I didn't get a sale or I didn't make a paycheck, you know. But then that doesn't mean that I'm going to have a bad month. I've had months where I didn't make anything my first 3 weeks. And then that last week of the month, based on my consistency and my habits, I ended up having the best month I've ever had all in 1 week.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that's how God works.
Yeah.
He wants to know how bad you want it. Before he can actually give you the blessing. You know, sometimes you got to fight for it a little bit.
No, I totally agree, man. And I think God does his best work in us in the hard seasons, right? In the hard times, because it allows us to ultimately realize that we're not as in control as we think we are. So I love that. And what you were talking about fulfillment spiritually, there's a pastor by the name of John Piper. He has a quote that has always stuck with me. He says that God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. And it has always stuck with me.
That's a good one.
And listen, I don't want to speak too much Christianese here, because I realize that maybe some people watching this may not understand that. So I want to put it a different way. It's interesting how we were wired to find ultimate fulfillment in this divine creator. But isn't it interesting that when we are most satisfied in him, we begin to live on purpose in such a way that brings him the utmost glory, right? And that's why I always say we were made on purpose for a purpose, and that is to live on purpose. And so I tell people fulfillment really comes when you're just living out that divine assignment, man, that divine mission. So I love what you're saying there. And I know we talked a few weeks back, maybe about a month ago, but tell me a little about your spiritual journey. Do you mind just touching on that just real quickly? How did that come about? Has that always been important to you? Is that something that you just kind of found, for lack of better words, over the past few years?
Yeah. So, obviously it's a staple in my life now. If I could tell you some of the things that I've been through in my personal life, over the years, you'd be shocked. I didn't get here overnight. It's taken a lot of personal growth.
Sure.
To kind of get there. To be honest with you, I was at the worst point in my life. New career, struggling to make money doing that. My father passed away. My marriage was in shambles. And I kind of had to throw my hands up and just say, you know, I got to do something here.
Yeah.
Something was calling me to start going to church. So I ended up going and doing that at a local church here in St. Pete. The pastor there is somebody that was there. He's moved away. But the pastor that was there at the time was a young guy. I went to kind of, I guess you could call it a mega church. There's like 3,000 or 4,000 members there. This guy was around my age, you know, early 30s. And seeing him up there was kind of inspiring to me. So literally, I think it was my second time ever in a church. I just walked up to him and I said, "Hey man, I love what you're doing here. I'd love to be more of a part of it and get more involved. But also I'm looking to associate with some guys like you." So kind of, He was, of course, very welcoming. We're very similar. He's one of my best friends now. He's done a lot for my life. So once I started going, it kind of brought my wife and I closer together. It brought me more confidence in my business and what I was capable of and what I was meant for. My wife and I baptized each other out on the beach.
Nice.
And just kind of never looked back, man. It was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I felt like it certainly has made me the man I am today.
Yeah, man, I was looking for the choir, man. You started preaching there for a minute, brother. I didn't know what was going on. Right? Someone coming down to the altar today. But, here's the thing, and I teach this, Will, and people that the Lord has blessed me to inspire, encourage, and motivate. And I said this on my good friend Ryan Wimmer's little podcast thing that he has for his agents up in the Carolinas. And I told him, I said, you live differently when you wake up every day knowing you have a God in heaven. Let me put it more personal, more intimate, a Father in heaven who fully loves you, fully accepts you. And this is how I live my life, Will, that all of heaven cheers me on every day. And it's like when you get out of bed and you realize that, man, you can take on the world, buddy. And that's the kind of God that I serve. I know that's the kind of God that you serve. And I'm so glad to hear that, because I definitely believe when it's vertically healthy, man, it's like everything seems to fit into place and seems to flow.
Well, we all need somebody that, and I don't want to say we all, I'll just speak for me. How about that?
Yeah.
I needed someone to hold me accountable on a different level.
Sure.
As human beings, our minds tend to want to take the easy way out.
Yep.
And I needed something to hold on to that in those difficult moments where I can make a decision that's not necessarily going to help me, isn't going to hurt me, but it's not necessarily going to help me either. And I needed something to say, nah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Do this over here because this is what's going to fulfill you. This is what's going to make you happy. And my mom actually said something to me one time, and this is one of the only quotes I think that my mom ever told me. She said, "Son, there's a difference between fun and fulfilling, and as soon as you learn that, you're going to stop struggling the way that you do."
Yeah.
And it kind of set with me, and it set in more and more over the years. But it's absolutely true. Sometimes the fun road is the easier road, and at the time it seems like the better choice. But I've found that the difficult road is usually the more fulfilling one. And when you stick true to who you are and you actually go on the more difficult road, you take the path, it's like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. Well, when you believe in yourself, you believe in something else, it pushes you through, man. So I needed that accountability. I needed somebody to say, hey, nah, you're not doing that. You're doing this over here,
Yeah. Well, no, just a few more questions here as we get ready to wrap up. I've heard it said that pain is the greatest teacher that we have. You've been through some pain. You've been through some adversity. You've shared some of that today. What's the biggest lesson that pain has taught you?
Well, I think that there is a real thing called post-traumatic growth. When you're in it, it seems like it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Right. You're like, why me? Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And I've found in my short life that the more you kind of dig in those moments, whether it's a week later, a month later, a year later, you end up growing from it. And, I'm going to use my dad, my father passing away as an example. I didn't really appreciate the man that he was when he was here, but once he was gone, and now that I have a daughter myself, I can appreciate all the things that he did for me. He wasn't the throw the football in the backyard dad, and the dad that took me on fishing trips and things like that. But I got to watch him be a great example of what I think a father and a husband should be. So, I'm like, man, what am I going to do without my dad? This is terrible. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then now I look back 3 years later and I'm like, man, I'm grateful. Post-traumatic growth, you push through it, you kind of sit in it, as difficult as it is. And if you really focus on where that pain is coming from, like, why do I feel this way?
Right.
The more you think about it, the more you sit in it, the more you're able to actually turn it into a positive, So yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that. And listen, I just want to stop real quick and take a quick time out, and don't waste your pain. If you're watching this today, don't let your pain go to waste. We've all been through some pain. My wife and I, we lost a son years ago. I don't wish that upon anybody, but Will, one of the best things that I've tried to teach people in my experience with pain is to repurpose it, right? And use it to make an impact in the life of others. The pain that my wife and I have been through as a couple and individuals, it's allowed us to birth ministries out of that and make an impact in other people's lives who felt like they couldn't go on anymore. So I just feel like God wanted me to stop right now and just say, don't waste your pain. And Will, can I say this? Can I be a little preachy as a former preacher and church planner? Is this: when you surrender your life to God, I want to let all of you know this: there is no wasted pain in the life of a Christian. There's no wasted pain. And I just want you to hear that today. And even if you're not a Christian today, even if you hate Christianity, even if it's not even on your radar, I just feel like I need to say that to someone out there today. There's no wasted pain in the life of a Christian. So as we get ready to wrap up here, Will, we could go on for a long time, and I've enjoyed this interview. I was excited about having you on. I love your passion. I love your energy. But I ask everyone this that comes on the podcast: if there was one word that you could use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
Wow. I think that certainly one word for me would be humble.
Humble.
Don't forget where you come from. The experiences that you've had in your life are setting you up for who you are in the future. Just because you've been through something doesn't mean that you can't make something else of your life. I went from cutting grass in my 20s to making a multiple six-figure income in my 30s. And within 4 years. And in the grand scheme of life, that's such a blip. That's such a short period of time. So I think humble would be a good word for me. I can be a little flashy at times, but again, I don't forget where I come from. I love where I come from. I think it's what gave me the heart that I have today. So humble would be a word.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You've shared a little bit, but how has that humility contributed to your overall success? Is it just helped you be a better leader? Is it helped you relate with people more? Can you just speak to that just for a second?
Yeah, I certainly think that, well, first of all, it's helped me personally because just simply knowing where I come from, I know where I don't want to be anymore.
That's good.
I know where I don't want to be anymore because I can remember where I was.
Yeah.
And on the leadership side of things, I think it has also helped me because I can remember how scared I was to switch careers. Yeah. I can remember how difficult it was dialing 200-300 people a day.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah.
So I take that into my leadership, and I can really resonate with where my agents are at. And I know where they're at. I've been in their seat. I've gone through the same things that they're going through. So I don't ever want to forget those things, because I can relate to them on a deeper level than just saying, hey, do this, do that. Here it is. Here's the script. Go after it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what's helped me.
So as we close today, let's say there's someone watching this. And listen, we're in the insurance industry, so a lot of insurance people watch this. That's a lot of my audience. But I've been very intentional about branching out in different arenas, right? Just entrepreneurs, just leaders in general. Let's say somebody's out there in your shoes. They want to bet on themselves, but they just can't seem to jump off that ledge or step off that ledge. What are some words of advice that you would give to them right now to say, you know what? Bet on yourself, take the risk. Is there something that comes to mind that you could just give them just a few sentences here to just motivate them, and even deeper than that, inspire them to go to that next level in their lives?
Well, as soon as you started with that, what popped into my head instantly was, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? I know that, since I know where I come from, I know where I can always, I wasn't as happy then as I am now, but I was happy.
Yeah.
So I know, what do I have to lose? Sure. I can always go back to what I was doing before. There's plenty of landscape jobs out there, right? I can always go back to that.
Right.
So to move forward, I don't have anything to lose. I truly don't. So I think that's got to be the case for most people. It might be scary. There might be a risk involved. But where there's no risk, there's no reward in life, Some of the most ambitious people in the world, took huge, crazy risks. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody. But as far as, dumbing it down onto what we're talking about, you don't have anything to lose. Just put one foot in front of the other, go day by day. And if it doesn't work out, you're further ahead than where you started. So either way, you have that. But more than likely, if you take the risk and you go out and you try something outside of your comfort zone, if you just stick with it long enough, it will pay off. It will pay off. You got to have no quit. Once you make that decision, then just go all in, jump into the pool instead of just dipping your toes in.
Yeah, man.
Because again, you don't have anything to lose.
Sure. So where can we find you? Are you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube? Where are some places people, if they want to connect with you, if they're watching this video?
I'm on Instagram. Wilski247 is my Instagram. I don't do a whole lot of podcasts and stuff like that on my Instagram. But yeah, feel free to give me a follow. If you have any questions or anything I can help you with, feel free to reach out. I'll probably will end up, whoever that is, I will end up giving you my phone number, so you can just text me, call me, and we can kind of move in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely put that in the video description when this video interview drops in a few weeks. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You definitely brought some fire today, man, and some value. I know when this drops, a lot of people are going to be encouraged. And listen, as we wrap up today, once again, I want to remind you, if you've heard something today that's really inspired you, please like this video. It helps us get seen by others that may need to hear this message. Comment if there's something that Will and I talked about today that just really resonated with you, but always make sure to please turn on the notifications and subscribe, so that way you're alerted when we drop new interviews and other content that we do. And I pray that this has put fresh wind in your sails. I pray that it's just hits a deep chord with you, or struck a deep chord with you in such a way that says, you know what? It's my time. I'm worth more. I deserve more. And I want to win in 2022. And I pray that what was said awakens something in you, that this divine creator has created you on purpose. You're here for a reason, and that is to live on purpose. So as always, God bless you guys. Listen, make it an awesome day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.